Welcome to the Gals Guide podcast. Join us on an adventure to get to know famous and infamous women from around the world. Each of our presenters has a pick. Is she ancient history? Is she breaking news? Is she safe for work? Well, that's up to each presenter. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I'm Klaire, and I'm joined by Leah, Katie, and Bonnie sharing our personal change gal. Bonnie already talked about Dorothy Mary Crowfoot Hodgkin, and Katie talked about Maya Shalavitz. Before we dive back, I want to get to know something rebellious about our gal pals. I want to know, can you share a time when changing something just for yourself ended up impacting people around you?
Dun, 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 dun. This one's a hard one for me. I'm still racking my brain. So if anybody else has an answer, buy
It's
us
such
just
a
some
good
time.
question, though.
It is. It's a challenging one.
Do
It
you
can be
mind?
hard to find,
mind-
like, to know how you affect other people. But Klaire, do you want to go first?
Yeah, do you mind if I
Yeah.
share first so that way I can give you some think time?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So, the biggest example of this for me in my life was in 2019. I quit teaching.
Mhm.
I walked away from my K-12 art teacher job so I could paint full time.
Yes.
And this was a very difficult and scary decision. But over the last few years, I've realized that I can have a more meaningful impact on my community
Mhm.
in convincing them that, oh, you know, women are people.
What?
Yep.
No.
And can have this greater societal impact on the art I create, as opposed to spending my time supervising over 100 feral kindergartners in freezing temperatures on the windswept plains of South Dakota.
Make it
And so
sound
making that
grand.
so making
Yeah.
that personal change in my career has
Yeah.
it's been a challenge, but I'm happier. I'm making more meaningful artwork, and I do see that impact happening on my immediate close friends and then rippling outward throughout the community.
Yeah.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Yay.
It did help me think of like two things. So
Perfect.
Yes. Share.
okay, the easy one that was kind of in the back of my brains when Klaire posed the question was, so I change the radio station if Pink Floyd comes on. Reasons. I had a psychotic ex-boyfriend that actually tried to kill me. He tried to drive a car off a cliff with me in it. And he would regularly avoid me or dump me or break dates to go to a Pink Floyd laser light show. So anytime I would hear Pink Floyd, it just made me think of Psycho. And so
Oh.
changing the channel was just kind of like, nope, I'm not going to think about him. I'm not going to have this in my space. So that was one way. And it also showed the people around me, you can just change the channel. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
just that easy. It has nothing to do with actually Pink Floyd, right? It just has to do with no. um, the other one it did make me think was probably a little bit more deeper was when I was about to turn 30, I started to think about, am I being a good role model for my kids? And I started panicking a little bit. And then I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to write a book and I've always wanted to make a movie. I just need to do those things for me. I need to just have for me that I have accomplished those two things. They don't have to be good. They don't have to be great. They don't have to be millions of dollars or anything like that. I just have to do those little things in the resources that I have. So before I turned 30, I published a book of questions and I made a teeny tiny short film that cost $20. And that too sent out those ripples of, you know what, just do the things that you're worried that you may never be able to do and just do them in a way that you can do them. And then other people be like, oh, you can just do that? Yes.
You were being so modest because those ripples led all the way to Gal's Guide.
They did.
I mean,
But I
that's
had to
you,
do those little
but
ones.
it
Yeah.
connected everything, gave you your support, gave you the team, made the connections. Yeah, that's just like
They're
set you
good
down that
ripples.
path.
Yeah,
They were great ripples. That's
exactly.
a very powerful example.
And imagine what all those other little ripples are gonna do. You know, change the world slowly.
I mean, it brought me into your life, so I
It
mean,
brought all of you into my life. Look at
yes.
that. Yep, this is very true. So those are my one little tiny one and a bigger one.
Well, that's amazing. And then I want to bring it back to me, of
Yes,
course,
yes, yes,
because it's
yes.
my episode. But because I was working as an artist full time, I had the flexibility to come out and see Gal's Guide in person.
Yes!
True. And
Exactly. You were
record in person.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. Exactly. It gives you that freedom to do the things that you wanted to do. Yeah.
And the things that are important to me.
hmm Super important.
Absolutely.
I like it. Katie, Bonnie, what about you two?
I just have a weenie one.
I like it.
Last summer, I decided I was gonna learn how to crochet because I wanted to learn how to crochet.
Yes.
I knew how to like knit a little bit. Like I know how to like knit and purl back and forth
Mhm.
and like make a rectangle. I have a couple scarves, just rectangles. Like I've done the Doctor Who, Fourth Doctor scarf, and I did a little scarf for Jodie Whittaker's scarf.
Aw.
And I knitted those, but I wanted to learn how to crochet because like I've seen the little kits, little
Mhm.
dudes, and they're adorable. So I got two of those. I got the dinosaur, Fred the dinosaur, and I don't even remember its name. It's a dragon, but it's red and it's a
Mhm.
little fat. So I pretend he's the little fat dragon from D&D. It's like Thumberchild or something. If
Right.
you've seen the D&D movie, it's the dragon that I picture.
There you go.
This little fat dragon is. He's so fat he can't like fly or move because he's eaten like so many dwarves. He cannot.
Adorkable.
But I did that because I wanted to learn how to do that. So it has now resulted in almost everyone in my life for Christmas got scarves.
Yes. Katie and I got
Very
scarves.
soft and pretty scarves.
Yeah.
Yes.
hmm hmm In our favorite colors, no less.
My
There was a
Right?
quiz.
Yes.
I love that. Yes.
Well,
And
and I just want
kudos.
to say when you took on gardening and
Mhm,
decided
Mhm.
that you wanted to make a YouTube, which you did for
Yep.
yourself,
mhm,
put out there into the world, and then it became a series you put on Gal's Guide
mhm.
website, you
Mhm.
definitely made an effect on me. I
See,
used your tips and advice with my garden this year, and we're doing pretty
Katie
good.
grew an awesome tomato. She showed a
That's
picture the other
true.
day.
oh, it was a very pretty tomato.
Yes.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
liked her.
yeah. A plus tomato. I mean, technically, Josh might have grown it since he watered the garden all summer, but
You know what? It's a collaborative effort,
yeah.
but you took the photo.
I mean, I supplied all the knowledge and he did
Mhm.
the manual labor.
There you go.
So it's kind of a 50-50 thing.
The
There you go.
director of the tomato.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's just kind of how we work things. Like the time somebody at work needed the Heimlich, and I was like, "Do you want the Heimlich?" And they nodded, and I was like, "Josh,
Right.
give her the Heimlich."
Step in.
I
Sizzle it.
direct things and he manually does them.
There you
And
go.
then he did it, and food fell out of her mouth,
See?
and she could breathe again. We're a
Uh,
team.
I like it. Wisdom and
Yeah.
skillful means. Perfect.
Yeah. It's just kind of what we do. But I
Do you
would
have an answer?
say I do have an answer. I
Okay, yeah.
do actually have an answer.
Okay.
It's actually a very personal answer, guys. But it
I'm ready.
was the summer before last. I had spent probably, oh, 7, 8 years just taking Lexapro for my anxiety. And it was in no way managing my anxiety. I
Mhm.
feel like it was like having a standard Band-Aid when I probably needed a tourniquet
Mm.
mm,
kind of
Fair.
thing. And I decided something had to give.
Yeah.
So, I went to see who I could talk to that was more specifically well versed. I mean, I love my general practitioner, but I was like, I need to talk to somebody that understands, anxiety, psychiatric meds can help me maybe adjust things, make a difference, start with some therapy, do something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and so I ended up seeing somebody specific to this field, and they also diagnosed me with depression, which now kind of blows me away because I'm like, how'd I go this long with nobody realizing I was depressed? That's like
Mhm.
kind of weird now. But anyway,
Mhm.
got
Right.
some meds for that, started the therapy. And truly, I've had so many people in my life comment that I seem so completely different. My mom said I seem like my old self.
Oh.
And just, you know, just people's comments about the difference in, what they see in my behavior, my energy level, and different things. I
Mhm.
can tell that the way I'm relating to them is a different experience for them. So I,
Nice.
initially did it for myself because I'm like, I got to get this figured out. But I think it definitely benefited my relationships with everybody in my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes,
Oh.
perfect. Sweet. Now we bring it back to Claire.
Yes. Well,
Ooh.
thank you everybody for sharing. I appreciate
Yes.
that. And I am so excited to share my person with you. I'm going to talk about Lee Krasner. And she's an impactful abstract expressionist artist. But I was curious if this is an artist that you're familiar with already.
She is totally new to me. I'm so excited about this.
I was
Well,
just thinking that name sounds familiar, and I was wondering if it was one of the ladies that you featured on your wonderful podcast.
A tiny
That's
bit.
why it's
ooh.
familiar.
Perfect.
Well, I have to admit, curiosity killed the cat. And once I knew you were talking about her, I had to Google her, and I was like, how did I not know? Because the world she was in, the relationship she was in, is definitely one I'm aware of, but her name is not one I was aware of. So I am excited to hear her story.
And I'm not surprised when I encounter people who don't know who Lee Krasner is. I didn't know who
Yeah.
she was until I was teaching at Morningside University, and I had a class called Modern Art History. And when I was relearning everything, I decided, you know what? I think I'm going to include some women in my curriculum
Thank you for your service.
Hmm.
because Jansen's Art History, which was the standard textbook, didn't include a single woman until 1985. And
Wow.
I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. Ugh.
even though Lee Krasner is such an impactful, important artist, and her legacy still impacts artists to this day, not just artistically, but also financially, and I'll share a little bit more about that too, she's completely overlooked and often not mentioned. And so I want to share her biography as much focus on her. I will, of course, talk about her famous husband and how that impacted her work. But I'll bring it around to some of these personal changes she made that helped her become the artist that we get to admire today.
Sweet.
So, in 1908, in Brooklyn, so in New York, Lena Krasner was born, and her parents were Orthodox. They were an Orthodox Jewish family, and they escaped what is current day Ukraine.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
when the Russian pogroms were happening, and they were facing a lot of anti Semitism in the early 20th century. And so her family came to the United States with their four children, and Lena Krasner was the first in the family born in the United States. She had a younger sister named Ruth who came 2 years later. Their family was very poor, and she didn't have a great childhood. But one thing that was good about her family was they never interfered with her education as long as she didn't ask for anything in return. And she credits her education to being a lot of the reason she was able to become an artist despite a lot of the restrictions because as we all know in the early 1900s education wasn't equal. And the first place that Krasner experienced this was attending Hebrew school. The boys and girls were separated and she was not pleased about this gender divide because she wasn't given as thorough or deep of education as the boys, and she didn't think that was quite fair.
And it's not
I'm not,
fair.
I'm not sure if any of you had experienced classes or parts of your education where you were discouraged from pursuing something due to your gender.
Yeah. Filmmaking, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And later in Krasner's life, she still identified as Jewish, but she was secular, and it was the sexism that spawned that. Now, in public school, that's where she learned English. And one thing I want to share is a quote she had from when she was a child. And she said, I don't know where the word ART came from, but by the time I was 13, I knew I wanted to be a painter.
Aw.
Nice.
And this was a radical choice because this is the early 20th century. Throughout the history of Western art, so in the United States and in Europe, women were actively kept out of art education in the field of art. And it wasn't until about a century ago when women were even permitted to study art, let alone have that as a career. And there are some rare examples, but they're rare because of the systemic sexism.
Mhm.
And Bonnie, I have to ask, do you know when you wanted to be an artist?
I probably about middle school when I was, let's see, in like elementary school. First, I wanted to be like astronaut, and then I
Mhm.
was like, oh, but I could blow up. Because
Mhm.
shortly I found out about Challenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Challenger was the
And
thing.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I could be mission control. Like, I think we had a career day. I wore a tiny, like a white little, I don't think it was a coat. It was probably like one of my dad's white shirts with a pocket. And I put like a pocket protector. And I was like, I'm going to work at mission control. And I was like, you know, my math ain't the best. Like I know how to do the math, but sometimes I get the wrong numbers. And I don't want to get the wrong number and cause someone else to blow up.
Mhm. It circles always back to the blowing up, doesn't it?
It's
80s were
my main
hard.
goal. Don't blow up. Um, but no, sometime in middle school, is when like anime was going strong. Sailor Moon in particular hit hard. And I was just always drawing in my notebooks because like we were talking earlier, probably before we started recording, like a lot of schools like repetition. There's a lot of filler time, and I'm like, we covered this last year, so I'm like, ugh. So I'm like always doing it. So I was like building up that like skill the whole time, and I started doing like extra art classes, and it's just become a thing. And now I'm like looking back and thinking like, oh, it's just I have something with my hands. I have to be doing something with my hands
Mhm.
24/7. And now that I'm inching closer to 40s, I'm like, it's socially acceptable for me to crochet anywhere and anytime, and that's
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I like that you decided to become an artist at the same time that Lee Krasner realized that was her
Mhm.
destiny. And speaking of some nerdy fandom, when Krasner was at school, she changed her name to Lenore. Does anyone want to take a stab at why she wanted to be called Lenore?
I hope it's because of Poe's poetry.
Yes!
Ah,
Yes, yes, heck yeah. I
for
She
the
was
love
a
literary
her.
win.
she was a nerd for Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, me too. Digging
Did,
it.
did you go through that phase when you were around
Oh,
that age?
yes. My dark soul. You know it.
That's perfect.
Yeah, the tarot cards.
Mhm.
I'm a creep, you know. Still am, always will be.
Love it.
So when Krasner was learning, she attended the only public high school in New York that had art classes for girls. And
Uh-huh.
so even though the educational opportunities weren't as abundant if she was born with different anatomy or was in a different social economic class, she did take advantage of everything that was possible. And while she was attending high school, she worked various jobs that were incredibly tedious, like painting stripes on lampshades. And I'm sure some of you have some great tedious job stories from when you were a teenager, too.
I worked in a video store, so prepping the new releases, label, case, label, case, label, case. Yeah.
What did you do if someone didn't rewind their tape?
Oh, we had a rewinder for that. We had like 7 of them.
Ah.
It was quite fun to try to get them all in sequence too, like bloop, 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 and then they pop up. Yeah, it was
The
quite
whole
fun.
time were you like muttering, "You're not kind, you motherfucker.
I didn't mind
This is
because I
not
liked
kind.
I liked the machine, so I
Not
kind of
kind behavior."
I didn't like when people yelled at me about their late fees, so that's where
Oh,
I wanted the
yeah.
kindness.
That's fair.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I would say my tedious high school job was I sometimes recorded things for public access TV, and once in a while I had to record the sports, and I was like, "Nah.
Sports.
Ew. Yeah. It's not my field."
Dig it.
High school. I did a couple hostessing jobs early on. So that's, I mean, a lot of walking back and forth. A lot of people being like, I'm allergic to smoke.
Because there was a smoking section and a
Yeah.
non-smoking section.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, because you worked at the Cracker Barrel, didn't you?
Oh,
Were
first
you
I worked
in
at
mourning
Cracker Barrel.
last week for the old
No,
decor?
that thing was it's weird. I think it's funny now that like public outcry is actually changing something. First, it was the Sonic movie. People were like, "What is that? That's disgusting."
Yeah.
And now it's the Cracker Barrel logo. So I'm like, this is kind of cool that the will of the people
Mm-hmm.
is changing what they're doing. But no, I hold no
Yeah.
love for the cracker with his barrel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we want to start up another riot, can we just get all the gals, guys, friends who are listening to start demanding that their art curriculum or their museum start featuring Lee Krasner and her incredible artwork, which I will get to very briefly?
Yes, please.
I'm 100% behind.
Like it.
So, when she was in college, she first attended Cooper Union Women's Art School, and it was tuition free. I
Uh-huh.
know that used to be a thing in the United States.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not excited about the sexism and anti Semitism she faced, but the tuition free quality.
Right.
I
You take the good, you take the bad.
was up to my eyeballs in student debt, but I still had to experience the sexism. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, at her school, the men and the women were segregated. And I know that trend still continues further up and even into the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
And most of her teachers were also men. And a lot of her teachers were very stuffy old men who trained under, well, excuse me.
Have that water. Yes.
I am getting so worked up about this, but one of her
As you should.
stuffy old teachers actually trained under Jean-Léon Jerome and William Adolphe Bouguereau. I'm not sure if either of these pale, stale male artists are familiar to you, but if you think of museums having paintings of very nude, swooning ladies, it
Oh,
might be
yes.
by one of these guys.
Fair.
And so they were famous French artists. And these are artists that I personally pick fights with in my own artwork, which
it.
makes me just adore Lee Krasner even more because it turned out that one of her teachers studied under these dudes. And the form of study was very classical. So the students first had to learn how to draw from plaster casts because they wouldn't move around. And they're studying form and proportion and shape and shadow. And these are all very valuable skills, but they had to prove that they could do this before they could move on to the life drawing classes. And in the history of Western art, at this time, the apex of art, the best, most amazing work in Paris was what was called history paintings. And so you had to know how to paint people, even if they weren't so historically accurate, like Venus rising out of the water or some burly dudes beating the crap out of each other on a battlefield. And women were never allowed to take these figure drawing classes
Hmm.
until about 100 years ago. And even when Krasner was doing this, it was segregated. And so I taught figure drawing before, and I was able to rile up my students because this was something that hasn't existed where you could have people of all genders participate and draw models of all genders, and everyone gets the same access to that education. And it's only been around a couple decades, and it's so exciting when I could have students be able to just be part of this growing history.
And to rebel a little bit too.
Yes. And this school was okay-ish enough for her. She earned a certificate, but then started taking classes at the Arts Students League. And I'm going to go to the year 1928 when Krasner is 20 years old. And one of her older sisters suddenly passed away. She was married and had two children. And in the Orthodox Jewish tradition, the next oldest sister was expected to marry the brother in law and raise the children.
Hmm.
She was 20 years old and partway through college and on her path to become an artist. Some of the schools she attended, they would have like 300 women admitted, but maybe only a dozen would graduate because they'd have to get jobs or get married or they'd switch programs. And so she's at the cusp of learning to become this artist she wants to do. And so she made a huge personal choice
I see what you did there.
and she refused.
Yes.
She loved her nieces, and she was a big part of their lives, but she was 20 years old and learning about art and starting her career, and so she chose not to. No, unfortunately, her younger sister, who was 18, had to marry the older brother-in-law and get the instant family.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's tough. Yeah. Do those sisters keep talking to each other?
I read that
Ooh.
Ruth never really forgave
Yeah, that's fair.
Lee Krasner for that, and I can see why,
Yeah.
but that's really difficult.
Yeah, I get it.
Now, that same summer, Krasner wanted to apply for the National Academy of Design, and she needed to put together a portfolio. And she wanted to include a self portrait. And I love encouraging people to make self portraits, no matter what phase of art making they're at, whether they are just coloring with some crayons in a notebook, or if they're over the top and doing some oil paintings like I do. Build a sculpture out of Legos. Making a self portrait claims that you are an artist. It marks your place in history. It's so exciting. Plus, you get to show off your skill if you are doing a portrait that looks like you because you can point to yourself and point to the portrait and be like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. And her self portrait is oil on linen. It's about 30 inches tall and 25 inches wide, and she painted it outside. So she nailed a mirror to a tree, and you could see the forest, the woods behind her, and she complained about all the bugs that kept bothering her while she was working. And she's wearing a blue top with a white apron, and she's clutching several paintbrushes and a rag in her right hand, but her left hand is stretching behind her painting surface because it's reversed since she was looking in a mirror. And the professors that were looking at her portfolio were really impressed, but they didn't believe that she actually took the time to paint it outside.
Oh, wow.
However, she got into the school, but this program basically required her to start all over again. And I know there are many times in our lives where we want to make a change, and it's scary to start at the beginning. And so she already did this when she was 20 and had to start over with drawing from plaster casts again. And even worse, one of her teachers was the teacher she got away from at the previous school. One of her classmates referred to him as a decrepit mummy.
Nice.
and said that the janitor probably knew more about drawing than the teacher did,
I like it.
which says a lot about his teachers, Jerome and Bouguereau.
Mhm, mhm.
Now, this is a really exciting time in art because we're at the cusp of modern art. And when I say modern art, it's with a capital M. And this is that block of art that roughly begins in the 1870s and goes to about the 1970s. And basically, all of those arts that have an ism at the end. So, Impressionism, Post Impressionism, Cubism, Fauvism, these are the things that are changing the art world. And she saw the very first exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in 1929. And this really impacted the art she was making. It started to change. And during a critique at this school, one of the very traditional teachers saw all this wild new artwork the students were making and screamed at the class, "I can't teach you people anything!" and flounced from the room.
Got a tantrum.
Yes, I'm not sure if anyone else has rebelled so much in a classroom the teacher had to flee.
No, but that would have been a life goal.
Yes, there's still time. We
Yeah.
can be lifelong learners.
Men, they're so emotional.
I like it.
And at this school, she was still facing segregation and lacking opportunities due to her gender. And one example was in the still life class, they would bring in fish for a prop. But this is 1920s, 1930s New York. There's no air conditioning.
Mhm.
So they had to do this class in the basement of the building where it was cool.
Oh.
Except for the women students weren't allowed in the basement. So Krasner was having none of this, and she and her friend Etta Mirsky snuck into the basement
Mm.
so they could paint a fish.
Oh, the rebellion.
I know, this seems like this shouldn't be that big of a rebellion, but they
But it
both got
was.
suspended.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
They
What was in that basement? That they weren't allowed in the basement.
they got suspended from college for having the audacity to paint a fish without a penis.
Wow. Patriarchy.
But this will fast forward us to 1930, where Krasner is officially going by Lee Krasner now. Her friends were calling her that for a while, but there was a census where she was officially listed as Lee Krasner. And during the 30s, she worked for the Works Progress Administration, so the WPA, in the mural division because, gasp, there
Mhm.
was a time when our government thought it might be a good idea to keep the citizens employed
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
thought that, public art was actually important and a part of our culture and society.
Yeah. That was the
Yeah.
time.
Revolutionary.
Yep. Now, in the 30s and 40s, Krasner's artwork was growing more and more abstract. And by abstract, I mean artwork that doesn't have a clear subject matter and it's expressing something else. And this is going to take us to 1945 when she gets married. Dun dun dun. Is there anyone that knows who Lee Krasner married?
Call on me. Call on
Yes,
me.
yes,
I know.
Katie,
I know.
Katie.
Gonna say I can guess from the year.
She buried Jackson Pollock.
Yes. And
Yes.
what's
Beat that guy.
wild is
Ah.
Jackson Pollock is usually part of everyone's curriculum. It's part of art collections. His biography is very famous, and they hardly ever will
Mhm.
mention Krasner. And I
Yeah.
wonder if it's because, typically when a man artist gets married to a woman, he suddenly has someone to do all of the domestic sphere, take care of the household, make sure he is fed, introduce him to curators, critics, collectors, introduce him to other artists, make him part of the art scene, and basically manage his entire career and make him the famous person he is today.
And do their
Mhm.
best to keep him from self-sabotaging.
Yes,
Because I think Lee did a lot of that. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
because Pollock suffered from alcoholism, and
Yeah.
Krasner did a lot to try to keep him sober and keep him working. And I want this biography to be based on her, but during this period, they were married for 11 years. Not only was she painting and making incredible artwork of her own, she had to do all of that domestic sphere and all of that other emotional labor and then manage Pollock's career. I mean, he couldn't
Mhm.
stop peeing in patrons' fireplaces. So she had a lot of extra work to do. And she should get some credit for that within his biography, I believe.
Yeah, seems fair. At
Yeah,
the very least, yeah.
because she's the one that did
100%.
introduce
Yeah.
him to these critics that wrote great things about him and set up these appointments and helped him get into galleries. And it didn't help her career. It wasn't reciprocal, unfortunately. He was
Mhm.
very abusive, so physically and emotionally abusive. He cheated on her very publicly, and it was complicated. And I know that Krasner grew up in a household that was also complicated, where she loved her family but didn't get the support she needed, and her marriage also followed the same pattern. But one thing that she did that was pretty amazing was create a series called Little Images. And I've seen people critique Krasner for her artwork being little. These paintings are 3, 4 feet wide. Those are pretty big paintings. Most people don't
Mhm.
have a painting that big hanging in their home or
Mhm.
make them. And she secured a home, and it had a barn which Pollock took over for his studio because he was big manly man and needed to do his drip paintings outdoors.
Mhm.
And she had a small bedroom that was her studio. And these paintings from the Little Images series, they're like a grid. It's kind of like writing. She would create them from right to left. So it's like writing in Hebrew, which is something that's
Hmm.
part of her background, and had really thick paint, and they're completely abstract. But one thing that happened while she was married was sometimes it would become winter and it would get a little cold. And I don't want to be mean, but poor, rugged, masculine Jackson Pollock couldn't work outside in the barn when it's cold, and he'd kick her out and he'd take her studio. And then when he would make paintings the same size she was doing, he never got criticized for being derivative for making smaller works of art.
Mhm. The double standard was coming from inside the house.
Yes. But she was a survivor. And in 1956, Jackson Pollock died. He was in a drunk driving accident and drove into several trees. His girlfriend, who was in the car at the time, lived, but her friend was killed in this accident
Mhm.
too. And Krasner was in Europe at the time, and the news was absolutely devastating. As I said, it's a complicated relationship, and I'm sure many of us have experienced a loss that has very conflicted feelings, and it's okay to feel how you feel. And around the same time, her mother died too.
Mhm.
And another quote I want to share from Lee Krasner goes as follows: I happen to be Mrs. Jackson Pollock, and that's a mouthful. I was a woman, Jewish, a widow, a damn good painter, thank you, and a little too independent. I got
I
a
like
little
that
excited and was
sass.
You're
gesturing
good, you're
wildly.
Yeah.
good.
And Krasner was very witty and clever, and these were things that were not seen as attractive for women in the early 20th century, particularly within a traditional Orthodox community. But she did what she needed to do to be herself. And in 1957, she created what is my favorite painting of hers. It's called The Seasons. It's oil and house paint on canvas. It is almost 7 feet tall and 17 feet wide. I'm
Wow.
so excited about this painting. I actually got to see it in person last year at the Whitney Museum of American Art. It is full of large, swooping forms that are kind of a beige color with bits of magenta, and there's green in between, and these forms and shapes are outlined in a dark color, almost like black. It's an incredible painting. And when I was there, of course, I had to read the little placard. And there was a quote from her on it. And Lee Krasner said, the question came up whether one could continue painting at all. And I guess this was my answer.
Aw.
And so this painting was about life cycles and regrowth and sorrow. And abstract expressionism, I'm going to admit, is a type of art that I have a hard time connecting with. But when I get to learn about the biography
Mhm.
and learn what she's going through, it makes this painting, which is just a successful composition in the first place, have more meaning to it.
Mm.
And so she chose to keep painting, and she's able to paint bigger, and she spent the rest of her life making incredible artwork. And thanks to not only her hard work as an artist, but being part of the art community and having that experience of promoting her husband, she really made Jackson Pollock's career. And after he passed, she spent a lot of time preserving his legacy. And this has the amazing benefit of leading to the Pollock Krasner Foundation, which was established in 1985, so the year after she passed. Her hard work, her tenacity, her dedication is why we have this foundation. And I want to share the website for it in case this inspires any of our friends listening to learn more about Lee Krasner or possibly apply for a Pollock Krasner Foundation grant. But the website is pkf.org, and they've given out over 5,000 grants in the last 40 years to artists and organizations in over 80 countries. They've given over $90 million.
Wow.
And it's so incredible that her legacy is still actively contributing to the arts community. And part of the reason I am so excited about Krasner is I received a Pollock Krasner Foundation grant. I'm the first person from South Dakota to get this. And I
Yay!
hope that inspires more of us wonderful Midwestern artists to look at this website, apply for it. They love supporting artists, even if their artwork looks nothing like abstract expressionism. I couldn't possibly paint less like Lee Krasner. But what I find amazing is I am picking fights with the same stuffy old guys she was picking fights, so we can continue on this legacy. And the reason I found out about the foundation was when I was teaching modern art history, and I wanted to learn more about Lee Krasner. I found the foundation. I'm like, oh, there are grants for artists. I bet I could apply for that.
Yeah.
And I finished up my project earlier this year. And so I owe Lee Krasner and all the people that are continuing her legacy a huge debt of gratitude because this permitted me to work full time as an artist for this last year.
Yay!
That's
Yay!
amazing. So
Thank you.
cool.
It's a beautiful opportunity that also sends out ripples to artists out there as well.
Right. Now I just need to get incredibly famous
Yes, let's do that.
and wealthy and set up a foundation so I can give out amazing grants and support thousands of people. Oh
Yes,
my goodness.
let's do that.
She was amazing.
Fantastic. I love the full circle of it and how many different elements of personal change are in her story and the personal change of the artist that she lives changed.
Right.
I
I'm not
dig it. I dig
sure
it.
if anybody had any other questions or thoughts or if it sparked any memories about art or Lee Krasner.
Hmm.
It would be really hard not to just burn all his shit after he died.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I can't remember if she does. I don't think she did, but I would love to hear Hannah Gatsby go on a rant like she does about Picasso.
Right.
I can't remember if she does in like her second or third special.
Yeah.
You have to get her on the podcast to
I
be a
know.
guest.
Exactly.
I want her to teach like an online art history class because I would love that.
That's
Mhm.
So much.
amazing. And I'm so glad that there are people that are starting to pick up and fill in these gaps in art history. And I know
Yeah.
it'd be weird for me to plug your own podcast while I'm on
No,
it,
no, do
but
it.
this
Do it.
is such a
Yes.
fantastic show because not only does it feel like I'm hanging out with my friends, even though we're separated by geography, I get to learn about so many incredible women that history would have forgot otherwise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's still up, but I think during COVID, I think she was supposed to have some kind of thing where she's supposed to be there at a I think it was a Picasso thing in New York.
Uh,
Pablo-matic.
Yeah, and
oh,
she recorded.
yes.
I remember I was able to
Yeah.
log onto NPR's website and hear like her walkthrough, like you would normally put on the headphones and walk around, and that was amazing because I couldn't even see the paintings, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yes.
I like it.
But no, it is like I went through so many art and history classes too, and I'm realizing like as I get older, like every single dude that's like the key marker for like pretty much every period, all the famous dudes, giant assholes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
Gauguin, Pollock,
Mhm.
like just so many. I'm like,
Picasso.
you have to be just a male asshole to like be the dude. Like,
Yeah. And then the actively not including women, like these
Mhm.
important artists
mhm,
in mid-century New York, just because they were women, were kept out of galleries and exhibitions. They were told, "Well, we don't exhibit husbands and wives together." And I know Lee
Mm.
Krasner got kicked out of a gallery because of her husband at one point. And
Wow.
I know the statistics are improving because I believe it's almost 3% of auction sales in the
Really?
United States includes artwork that was made by women.
Wow. 3%?
Yeah,
I'd want to
yeah.
see what the math is for how much of that 3% she is Georgia O'Keeffe.
Oh,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
she's the only one kind of pushing that barrier on the auctions.
Yeah.
Like,
So for our rebellion,
Mhm.
and I've told my students and that I've had in person with this too. If you go to a museum or a gallery and you're not seeing a certain demographic represented, like if you're not seeing enough women or enough
Mhm.
non-binary people or enough indigenous or queer artists or whoever your group is, you can go to the website and fill
Mhm.
out the little comment sheet or find the curator and send an email. Be polite about it. They will respond. There is a human that will check it, but you could say, I really enjoyed this exhibition, but I noticed there was only one woman in the whole show. What are you going to do to improve this? And so we
Mhm.
can be little guerrilla girls about this.
mhm.
I love that. Mhm.
I was so excited to do that the next time that I went to our local museum, but they had taken out the whole fourth floor, which was the contemporary art wing, to
Hmm.
put in the loom thing. And
Mhm.
they're like, "Oh, well, we're gonna put it somewhere else." I don't think that they put it back up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to do my count.
Convenient. Interesting. Oh, goodness. Well, Claire, do you want to wrap us up? This was fantastic.
Yeah, either I will incite a riot or I'll wrap us up.
Yeah.
So,
How about both?
okay, okay. We'll riot after the episode.
I like it.
But but that wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week as another gal who experienced personal change is picked to share as Gals Guys podcast continues. Thanks for listening.
That's another chapter in our Rebel era. Thanks for being here. If you loved learning about women's history today, don't stop. Discover even more wise gals and untold stories at galsguide.org. Until next time, keep sharing women's stories.